Hi, welcome to Slices of Life this week. If this is the first time you're joining me, I'm Sandra Tonn and I facilitate the memoir writing for seniors program through the Powell River Public Library. Library's closed right now, so I'm bringing you some memoirs, both local and non-local, each week. Some people are calling it adult story time. This week I'm going to read from a local author who was published in our first memoir anthology through the library, the book Slices. And the author is Claudia Cote. This is one of my favorite stories from this anthology. Claudia, born in Powell River, lived up the coast in logging camps and on her dad's fish boat. Home base was Sharps Bay in the Ragged Islands. And she was one of the first women since the Second World War to work in the local sawmill. That's where she met her husband of 35 years at that time. And this was published 6 years ago. So, after a varied career and raising two daughters, Claudia retired in 2011 to focus on her genealogy, gardening, and traveling. So Claudia took the memoir writing course. And this is one of her stories. The title is Two Dogs, a Seal, and a Seagull by Claudia Cote. Growing up in the Ragged Islands, now known as the Copeland Islands Marine Provincial Park, we had many different family pets. Having dogs is pretty common, but our dogs, excellent swimmers, would do crazy things like the night they spent herding dogfish into the shallows to catch them. By morning, they had reduced the dogfish population by at least a couple of dozen. Dogfish bodies lay all over our lawn, but the dogs were so proud of themselves, we couldn't get mad. We even had a pet seal at one time. It was all by itself and was the cutest thing around. Flipper was not just any seal, but a fur seal. He had very thick fur, a stocky body, and longer flippers than any of the other seals. He was a big hit with all the tourists that came into the fuel dock to get gas or water that summer. Flipper would put on quite a show, rolling over on his back to eat the mussels and bits of fish people would throw his way. He must have appreciated an audience. He stayed for a whole year before he disappeared one day. But the craziest pet we ever had by far was our Seagull. Yep, you heard right. My sister Kathleen was going to Brooks High School in Powell River, and one Friday she came home on the bus with a box that held a baby seagull. A friend of hers from Texada Island had found the bird abandoned. The friend just knew one of us sharp kids, would figure out what to do with it. We did, but what a learning curve. Smokey was very young and should still have been fed by its mother. We tried feeding him little pieces of bread soaked in water, cooked fish, and chopped oysters, but to no avail. We were doing something wrong. We searched the Encyclopedia Britannica and finally found our answer. Some of the adult gulls had red marks on their beaks. A young bird would peck at the red spot on its parent's beak when hungry to get food. Our solution was for Kathleen to put on red nail polish. And it worked. Young Smokey would peck at one of her red fingers and open his beak for food. As the summer went on, we noticed something strange about Smokey. He didn't want to fly, even though other seagulls his age were flying. We didn't know what to do. We tried taking him down to the floats and just throwing him up in the air, thinking this would help. He would just fall into the water and swim as fast as he could to get out. While this didn't get him flying, it did make us kids just howl with laughter. Smokey was so tame, he followed us around worse than the dogs. One day we ran in front of him, and he began to run along behind us and stretched out his wings. That's when we got the idea. If we ran all the time, he would have to fly to keep up. By the end of the summer, he was flying very well and would land on our heads if given a chance. Whenever one of us would go fishing with Dad, Smokey would follow our boat. He knew there would be fresh food involved. If he got tired, he would just sit on the back of the boat, the poles, or the cabin and wait for us to clean the fish. He hung around for a whole year, changing from an ugly, smoky, gray-colored gull into a beautiful, white, young adult. Then he started staying away for longer and longer periods of time. Fall turned into winter, and spring became summer. We thought we'd never see Smokey again, but by late summer, who should show up but Smokey, with the wife and 2 kids in tow. That was written by Claudia Cote. There's a picture here of her sister Kathleen with Smokey on her head. Ragged Islands, 1958. Thanks for listening today. Have a good rest of the day.